Welcome to the first video where we're going to go and attempt to learn to read the Greek New Testament. This is part one, and we'll just be looking at a few words and getting an introduction to the alphabet. So we'll look at the words first. We'll start to learn some vocabulary, and as we're learning the vocabulary, we'll start to learn some of the Greek letters and the sounds they make when forming words. And then we'll continue that in the following video. But let's look at the new vocabulary. So this first word, ha, is the article in Greek, and often this will be translated in English as the word the. So ha means the, or can mean the. Theos can mean God. Theos, God. Kai, and also. Kai can mean and, or occasionally it can mean also. En means in. Paulos, Paul. Christou, of Christ. Christou, of Christ. Iesu, of Jesus. So we've got 7 words which are being introduced here. Ha, Theos, Kai, En, Paulos, Christou, Iesu. Now, there are 2 things essentially that we need to learn when we're learning vocabulary. We need to learn how to say the word as we read it, and we also need to remember its meaning. So you can see I've got the meaning there in blue with those 2 brackets down the bottom where it says of Christ and of Jesus. They're kind of like helping words to indicate what that word is actually often translated as in English. And we'll talk more about that in future videos. Lastly, I just want to say you can see in brackets down the right hand column that I've listed the type of word, or rather the type of speech that each word belongs to. So we have an article, we have nouns, we have a conjunction and a preposition. If you don't know what they are, don't worry too much. I'll go through them later. For the time being, the most important thing for reading is going to be identifying how to pronounce each word and what its meaning is. So if you would like to pause just for a little bit if you didn't get a chance or are unsure on any of them. Let's go through them. So this is the first word, ha, and this is the Greek letter omicron. So omicron is the Greek letter, and this little, what looks like an apostrophe above it, or a backwards apostrophe, is what we call a rough breathing mark. And you might have wondered why I was pronouncing ha with a H at the start, and this is pronounced ha, and that's because of the rough breathing mark. That rough breathing mark tells me I need to breathe out at the start of this word. So it's like pronouncing a H sound, ha. Okay. The next word we have was theos, and we're introduced to 3 more letters here. So we can see the omicron is still in the middle. We have a theta or a theta. We have sigma, and we have epsilon. So we have 4 letters: theta, epsilon, omicron, sigma, theos. And as I said, it's pronounced theos. Now you can see there that sigma, what looks like an S, sigma, looks like that at the end of a word, but when it appears in the middle of a word, it's going to look different. And we'll see that in some of the other words. But theos, theta, epsilon, omicron, sigma, theos. Okay, let's look at some more letters. So we have the Greek word chi, and again, we have a kappa at the start that looks like a K, kappa, then alpha, then iota. So we've got 3 new letters, completely new letters in this word, kappa, alpha, iota. And this word is pronounced chi. And the AI, or if we were to transliterate it into English, AI, I would make the sound like the word I, but with a K in front of it. So we've got chi, kappa, alpha, iota. Next we have the Greek word n, and we've already seen epsilon. So the first letter is epsilon, second letter nu. And you can also see that we've got a breathing mark that looks like a normal apostrophe rather than a backwards apostrophe. And that means it's a normal breathing mark, meaning we don't produce the H sound. We just make the sounds the letters that are visible. So in this case, we have N, epsilon, nu, pronounced N. Next we have Paulos or Palos. So we have pi, Greek letter pi at the front. We have lambda. And we have upsilon. Now you can see 3 other letters, which I haven't labeled, which should be familiar. We have alpha, the second from the left. And at the end of the word, we have omicron and final sigma. So pi, alpha, upsilon, lambda, omicron, sigma. And this is pronounced Paulos or Palos, depending on how you choose to pronounce it. Now we have Christou. We see the Greek letter chi for the first time in this word, chi. Now we have a middle sigma. I've called it a middle sigma. This is basically what a sigma looks like when it occurs not at the end of a word. So when it occurs at the end of a word, it looks a bit like an English S. But when it occurs in the middle of a word, it looks like this. So we have chi at the front. We have sigma in the middle there. We have rho. So chi, rho, iota, sigma, and then this other new letter, tau. Chi, rho, iota, middle sigma, tau, omicron, upsilon. And this is pronounced Christou. Yesu. You notice we have a breathing mark. It's a normal breathing mark, but it comes before the first letter rather than on top of the first letter. And that's just because we have a capital letter. So whenever we have a capital letter, the breathing mark will occur before it rather than above it, as we've seen. And the only new letter here is an eta, or an eta, but it's pronounced A. So iota, the first letter is an iota, but it's capital. Iota, eta, middle sigma, omicron, upsilon. Iesu, Iesu, Iesu. So we can probably combine the I and the A to make Iesu, or we can try and spell them out more distinctly, Iesu. Okay, so let's go back and review the new vocabulary that we've introduced in this lesson, and we're focusing now on the meaning. Ha. What does ha mean? The. Now, it won't always be translated as the. It doesn't always mean the, but it is an article and is often translated the. Theos. What does theos mean? God. Theos means God. Kai. And or also. Kai means and or also. N. What does N mean? N means in. It's very similar sounding. N, in. Paulos or Paulos. What does this mean? Paul. Sounds like it, just with an os on the end. Paulos or Paulos. Christou. Of Christ. Christou. Of Christ. Iesu. Of Jesus. Okay, so we've gone through and looked at all the words, all the vocabulary, but we want to go back and review all the letters, because in order to be able to read Greek, we need to be able to look at a word and sound it out. And eventually we'll be able to look at a word and just say the sound without having to work it out letter by letter. But to get there, we need to identify the sound of each letter. So first of all, ah. This is Omicron. Ah. This is theta, pronounced th. So theta. This is epsilon. Epsilon. We have sigma. This is the final form of the sigma, the one that looks like an English S. Sigma. We have kappa. Kappa. We have alpha. Alpha. Now, alpha can actually have two sounds. It can either be short or long, but for the moment, we're just going to say for alpha. We have iota. Iota. Nu. This one will probably be the most confusing once you've started to get the hang of pronouncing Greek words, because it looks like an English V, and when you're reading English, you might start to pronounce an N rather than a V sound when you're reading English, once you've learned Greek a little bit. This is nu. Pi. P. This one should be familiar to those of you who've done much maths. Pi, of course, relates to circle geometry and other things, but we've got pi, P. And we have upsilon. Now, notice that I'm making the U sound, or the U sound, upsilon. Then we have lambda, lambda, making an L sound. Now this one looks a bit like an X, but it's not an X. This one is chi, so k. Now it can be k, ch, as in choir is a bit like that. It's probably a bit easier to think of it as a k sound, like a K, but it's not quite the same as kappa. So we've got k, chi. We have rho. This one's also going to be another confusing one between English and Greek, because it looks like the English P, but it is actually an R sound, rho. sigma. So this is a middle sigma or a non-ending sigma. This one is tau, t, or a T sound, t, tau. And we have eta. So you notice there it's spelled ETA, but pronounced that like an American would, eta instead of eta, which is why I've put in brackets for the sound AY, eta. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the video. In following videos, we're going to keep learning more vocabulary fairly regularly, probably 5 to 7 words per video when we have new vocabulary. But then in the next few videos, we're going to start to put words together into phrases so that we can start reading phrases. So make sure you go and practice the vocabulary from this video. We will review it in the next video before we start to look at phrases. But we're going to start putting the vocabulary together into common phrases that we find in the Greek New Testament. We're also going to learn the remainder of the alphabet, and a bit further down the road, we're going to look at parts of speech. So things like conjunctions and nouns and verbs and adverbs and what they are and how they kind of fit together. And we're also going to keep reviewing vocabulary from previous videos or also from the video we've just been wrapping up. So I hope you found that useful. If you've got any thoughts or picked up any mistakes, feel free to just note them in the comments section below. And hopefully I'll see you again in another video.